such a natural, it just sort of flowed really well. And yeah, big up yourself, Emily.
Thanks, babe. I'll pay you later.
Free promotion. Basically, would you just like to introduce your wonderful self? Who are you? Where do you come from? Not really like that, but a bit about you, what you do, what you like, just before we delve into the juicy goss.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Emily.
Hey girl.
Hey girl. I do a YouTube channel called Style Me with Love. It started off as a fashion kind of channel, but the last few years I've been branching into, a few other subjects that take my interest, like wellness and well-being and mental health kind of stuff. Talked a bit on my YouTube channel about my past history with eating disorders. That was one of the ways in which I met a lot of my friends in Belfast. So I live in Belfast, but I'm obviously not from here. But since starting a YouTube channel and my Instagram, I have made a lot of friends around here through that. So
friends for life as well, I would say.
Yeah, very good.
I'm very grateful for the blogging community, really, for connecting me with you, because you're just an angel, a life angel. And I'm very grateful to have you as a friend, to be honest. But I was actually wondering there, whenever you were, because I know you did start off, so you probably gained a lot of your following from your fashion style. And did you actually, how did your views compare whenever you actually started chatting about the mental health stuff and the stuff that I would say is super inspiring and brave and very different to fashion?
I must admit, I don't actually know off the top of my head. I never really analysed.
Yeah, the analytics, but would you have got...
I never really paid much attention to them.
Yeah, but do you know the way you would put some things out and you don't really get, it's like tumbleweed kind of thing. You can get that with social media. But whenever you chatted about the mental health stuff, did you notice you got supportive comments and things like this, and people sharing their own experiences with you?
I did actually, in the sense of I actually found that when I did a video called I Love Me, which was a YouTube video.
It was one of my favorite videos ever. Honestly, it's just beautiful.
Oh gosh, it was just, I was I suppose really in the midst of my sort of disordered eating at the time. I felt really, really lost, and I just felt like I didn't know myself anymore. I didn't value myself anymore, and I was really stuck in a really critical way of thinking about myself. And as well as that, I then just gone through a huge breakup, which was just absolutely awful at the time. And I did the I Love Me video because I just wanted to really, I suppose, get back to seeing me for who I really am and what other people see. And I just wanted to try and start, I wanted to start seeing myself and loving myself for the reasons that maybe the other people in my life do. And so I did that video to really raise awareness of, also a mental health charity, the Samaritans, because that was a charity that I'd actually used myself in the past. I had been to the Samaritans and they'd given me great support in the past. So I wanted to do the video in association with that. And I just wanted to really, I felt like I was always holding this big secret to myself as well. I was going out and doing my fashion content and putting this big smile on, but deep down I was having a really difficult time. And I wanted to be really honest with my following about that as well. So there's a few reasons.
It takes a lot to actually come out with things like that. And, whenever you weren't really feeling like you did love yourself and you'd just been through a breakup and all this trauma, to have actually used that to sort of help yourself and help others kind of thing with creating that video.
Yeah, and I think for me it was I just really wanted to sort of find those reasons to build my self-esteem again, because I was already in a low place with my disordered eating being so severe at the time, but then my breakup happened as well, so my confidence had just
it was too much all at once. Emily, was that around the time that we went to Tony and Jen's and the whole Pilates scandal?
No, that was probably about a year later-ish.
Gosh, yeah,
okay. This was before I actually knew you, so but when I did that video, like, it did like get a great reaction from other people in the community, especially the blogging community, and I spoke about it at a few events, and actually it was one of the events where I spoke about it, which was where I met you. It was the blogger brunch event that we went to on the Dublin Road. That's where I first met you.
Oh yeah, in the gallery. It was beautiful.
Yeah, you spoke at that event as well. So yeah,
I think us two were the only ones that really shared like anything deep. Like, do you know what I mean? The two of us were not really beating around the bush. We were straight in there with, yeah, I've had all these problems, but look at me now.
And I remember actually as well, it was at that time I put out that video, and then our friend Ruth Archibald, yeah, sorry, he messaged me through Instagram at the time and said, oh, I just saw your video, and like I just want to like say like I think it's great, blah blah blah. And then we arranged to meet up. So then basically I met up with Ruth, and then me and Ruth became really, really good friends. Like, we met up and had a coffee for like 3 hours.
Oh yeah, I know. I love that though. Like, and you feel like you know someone forever, and you've literally only just come across them, and it's so nice.
Ruth, I met up with her, and I just like, because my breakup had just happened like 2 weeks before.
She was like your therapist.
I met up with her, and I just poured my heart out to this girl. She obviously felt really bad for me, because she agreed to see me again, even though I was probably an absolute mess. But that's
how you know you've got true friends, that you can actually just, you know, you feel comfortable enough to come to, because there's not many people. I feel like you do need to be very careful with who you can sort of talk about those things with, because there are people that will give you really harmful advice, like, you know, wise up, you know, sure, you have nothing to worry about, whereas there's someone else that will really listen to you and, you know, actually be able to sort of guide you or support you through that time.
Yeah, well, I really felt like, well, I go with that, like things like that, I tend to go with my intuition. So there are certain people I meet who I know I can just share deep stuff with straight away, and there are certain people that you just know you would never feel comfortable to. The one thing that doing that video brought me as well was not only like that acknowledgement of having that, it was that acknowledgement to myself that, okay, I really have a problem here, and I can't keep going on like this. Like, this is really affecting happiness. But it was also the fact that it brought amazing things to me. Like, it brought amazing friends into my life that like I wouldn't have met. Like, I wouldn't have met Ruth if I hadn't made that video, because she never messaged me on Instagram.
And you got such a load off your chest, and you got so a load in return. Yeah,
like I just felt like I started really, the more I put myself out there in terms of doing stuff like that video, which was so scary, and I was so terrified I was going to be judged, people were going to take it seriously, or people were going to think I was being, you know, attention seeking.
For sure.
But it just ended up attracting really good things to me, and I just made really good friends off the bat. And I think it also, because I had to like just put everything out there, I think it made me more confident for then going out and just meeting new people in general,
and just being you,
making more genuine friendships. So yeah, it was a really big move, but it had quite a significant impact on my life after that.
I think that really goes to sort of highlight like and sort of take away the stigma of sharing stuff about mental health, because there obviously is still a massive stigma around, and people are scared to share, people are scared to reach out for help. There's a pressure to always be, you know, good and thriving and living your best life, and actually sharing something so personal that you really are struggling with, and you feel like, you know, it's too much to just hold to yourself any longer, that can actually have such an incredible effect. And, you know, that really you're going to receive so much support, and you've gained friends and confidence and all this stuff like through it, because it's kind of like coming out, right? Do you know, like
I mean, you're kind of acknowledging in front of a load of people that, you know, you're not okay and that you need to get some sort of help or guidance.
And you're opening yourself up to,
as you always put it across.
You're fully opening yourself up to criticism and people saying, oh, you know, what are you talking about? You have nothing to complain about. But obviously those kind of people, like, you don't need in your life, and, you know, you're doing it for the people that need to hear it, and, you know, that can feel some sense of support through your words. Do you want to share maybe a wee bit about your sort of history with eating disorders? Because obviously you have struggled, not sure where you're at right now. If you feel comfortable, and then maybe the sort of tips and stuff that helped you along the way, because we have had very different experiences with eating disorders and what we have sort of done to help ourselves, and maybe a bit about lockdown as well.
Yeah, definitely. So gosh, I mean, it's one of those things you could really go so far back.
Yeah.
Where did it all start? Like, why did
I end up like this?
Where did it all go wrong? What little seed of my chocolate planted the problems are? I suppose, I mean, really looking back at where things would have been planted in early life, I would say when I was growing up, I felt like looking back on it now, like at the time I didn't realise, but looking back on things now, I was really surrounded I wouldn't like to say who in my life, but there were definitely an adult or parental figure in my life that definitely gave me the impression that, you know, looks were very important in terms of your value as a person. And throughout my childhood, I've kind of had that reiterated a little bit in my head.
Whether that was their intention or not, that was what you were fed.
Yeah, and as I became a teenager, I was a very shy child. I had a little bit of bullying at school. I was very, very anxious as a child. Pretty much from the day I went to school, I couldn't wait to leave. Like, I just never felt comfortable in the school situation at all. I hated the social hierarchy. I hated the fact that I always got like sort of picked on a little bit. And yeah, I was never really comfortable. I never felt like I could be myself at school. I never really found myself. I was kind of like a muted version of myself. Going into my teenage years, I managed to kind of avoid too much bullying in my later teenage years because, you know, I was in a different school for the last 2 years and I just got on with it. But there were influences there. I remember a sister's boyfriend, when I was about 14, the sister's boyfriend commenting to me on putting on weight on my hips.
Oh, so stuff like that. You were so young and that has stayed with you until now.
Yeah, like the fact that an adult man commented on my weight at all, let alone commented on the weight of your girlfriend's little sister who's only 14.
No.
It's just so wrong and disgusting. But I remember after he made that comment, the rest of the summer, this was before I'd started back at my new school, so I had the whole summer off and I didn't really have any friends at that point because I'd only just started at that school a month or two before we broke up. So I spent the whole summer basically just with my mum, and I went to the library and I rented out from the library like workout videos to do at home.
Oh my goodness.
And I used to do these workout videos like every single day in the summer because somewhere in my head that kind of got into my head. And I didn't even realise that's where the behaviours started.
Gosh, it's only looking back now that you sort of think, oh my goodness, like that behaviour came about as a result of that comment.
Yeah, and you don't even at the time as a teenager, I didn't even really tweak that it affected me. I was just like, oh, that person made a comment about my weight, well, I'm going to do something about it. And I don't even know if at the time I actually really lost any weight. I just kind of
you just thought, right, well, he thinks I'm
got on with my life. Yeah,
I've put a bit of weight on, I need to lose that weight because looks are important, which is what you believed.
Yeah, like obviously it was some down there in the subconscious or whatever, but anyway, I went through my teenage years and like kind of I was very, very slight anyway.
Yeah.
Naturally, I shot up in height and just was very
Yeah.
up and down, very straight up and down kind of figure. And I was, just slim and healthy. And basically, I went on the pill when I was 17. And as all these hormones rush into your body just completely changes when you go on the pill. As a teenager, it's like you go from being a girl to a woman in the space of about a month and a half. Like,
I'm not a girl. Yeah, don't want to be a woman.
And I was like 17, and within about a month and a half, I mean, like my body had just really changed from what I knew, and it really freaked me out. Like one day I looked in the mirror.
Very difficult to sort of comprehend, like, what has happened here? What am I going to do? Oh, like a lot of different emotions and thoughts surrounding that.
Yeah, I remember like one day I just looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself because it was such a small amount of time, and I had gone up a bit of dress size or whatever, and my figure, it was just the curviness of my figure, everything was very different, and I was just shocked. I was like, oh, who am I? And I remember
would you have said you preferred the before to what you were now seeing? Is that sort of how you felt, or was it more just like shock? What?
Naturally, I just I was just in shock because I was significantly like bigger in my opinion, and I just wasn't used to having boobs or hips. I've never had boobs or hips before. I'd always been very like
straight up and down,
cup size and straight up and down, and that's just what I was used to. So it was just a shock and also a bit overwhelming. And I remember going to meet my best friend. I walked to her in the rain, and as I walked up to her, I was bawling my eyes out, and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I just don't know myself," and I felt so awful, and I just like hugged her in the rain, and she was just like, just felt so bad for me, bless her. And so that's when I got a bit conscious of it, and then I remember going to university that September, and I came back to my sister's house for a party. She had a party at her house, and one of her other friends, a male friend again, made a comment about my weight and that I put on weight and that my hips were bigger.
Oh, Emily, why are your sister's male friends and boyfriends like
that? I know. These absolute sods, I swear.
That's a kind word, darling.
Well, I don't know what we can say on here. There are worse words to mind, but I won't repeat them.
We'll keep it PG.
After that night, I thought, because my sister used to have this party like once a year, she did like a fancy dress party, and I thought after that night, I'm going to come back to this party next year, and I'm going to be so much better, like I'm gonna lose all this weight, like I'm gonna
you had this mission to be the best body in town.
Like me losing weight was gonna like show him, and it's like I'm not do you know, like how I know the
mentality is awful that you're like, right, but I think that's very common though, and the amount of people that I know and friends and everything that have had comments said to them that significantly influence their thoughts and behavior for the foreseeable future until they're actually, mindful of, oh my gosh, that was it, the trigger, that was and then you're sort of with age and everything, you become more mindful that, oh my gosh, like that comment, that doesn't, it wasn't the truth, their opinion, they should never have shared that. Can we please make it very clear to never actually comment on anyone's weight ever? Their appearance does not affect your life. I'm so passionate about this. I've actually personally just got someone asking me today of my BMI, and my BMI at my lowest, and I'm just like, seriously though, like right enough though, it's so inappropriate to ever ask anyone's weight or their, or just make comments, because you don't know, you might say, oh, you look like you've lost weight, you look unreal, whereas they're actually starving themselves and they're in a really bad place mentally, and you've just actually reignited their belief and thinking that they need to lose more weight to be
like reaffirming that what they're doing is a good thing, and it's not.
No, it never is.
I,
And yeah, I do think that's really important. And on the topic of like weight and everything like that, it actually does prevent a lot of people from getting the help that they need with eating disorders. And it's a real like problem right now that, if you're not below a certain BMI, that, you can't get help. And I suppose I consider myself very lucky in a way that obviously it's not good to have been at such a low weight that I needed the help that I got, but you never got hospital treatment with your anorexia, did you? And did you find it more difficult? Did you find that a challenge with your BMI in particular?
Well, so no, I mean, I never had a severe enough problem to be hospitalized or anything like that. However, I never really got the support I needed in terms of counselling. The type of counselling I would have really benefited from would have been talking therapy, whereas I was always referred for CBT. I'll just go back to, so basically after that comment was made, and I just started university, and I decided, right, I'll prove this person wrong, I'm going to lose this weight, I'm going to come back next year way better, blah, blah, blah. And that was when my problems with binge eating disorder and bulimia started, because at university, you're always having parties and it's someone's birthday, so you get loads of food in. And I would binge
food and alcohol combined with all this stress and pressure, and it's a lot. It really is a lot.
Yeah, like we would have like parties and loads of food, and I would like completely binge eat and then go and purge in my room. Like it was so bad in that first year.
Did anyone know that you binged and made yourself sick, or did you do that in secret?
I did in secret for a good few months, and then eventually I did tell one of my friends, and she was the only person that knew. But it got to the point, Amy, where I would just basically make myself purge after any meal, really. I mean, I got to the point where I wasn't actually binging anymore. I was going into town and I was getting like a smoothie and I was still purging. I went to see a counsellor, my university counsellor, once that year, and I'd never been to any kind of counselling before. I went into this counselling session and it was so overwhelming talking about it. I cried so much that when I left the counselling session, I felt so horrific. I thought, oh God, I don't know.
I thought you were going to say you felt fantastic because you got it all off your chest.
No, I felt awful. Like I went to the counselling session because it was so overwhelming, because I was only 18. It was so overwhelming for me to even talk about it for the first time.
Yeah, for sure.
I cried so much, and so I felt after like crying had made me feel worse. So then I didn't go back to the university counsellor. They didn't follow up or anything, but I didn't follow up with them. So I just kind of I thought I'll deal with this on my own. And it got to the point where I thought more towards the end of the year, I thought, I'm really worried about my teeth. I don't want my teeth to get affected from all this purging. So I'm going to stop purging. I'm just going to diet. And then that's when I went more extreme with the restrictive eating and that kind of thing.
Did you manage to stop yourself with the bulimia? Did you actually completely just cut out from purging all your food to nothing, or did you cut it down gradually? How did you sort of transition that? Because I'm absolutely shocked and surprised, and that's an incredible achievement if you managed to go from that to just strictly starving.
I slowly phased it out that summer, because I remember that summer I was living with an ex-boyfriend, and I was still doing it, and he knew I was doing it, but he didn't really know what to say to me about it, and it was kind of like an unsaid thing.
Okay.
And he would every now and then he would make a comment about it, but he wouldn't really talk to me about why I was doing it.
Do you think, like, would you have liked him to have talked to you more about it, or was it just something that you were embarrassed about and you didn't really feel comfortable talking to anyone?
I think I would have liked him to talk to me about it, but he was one of these people, he was just really uncomfortable having kind of more deep conversations.
Okay, yeah. And there just are some people like that.
And I don't think he was even comfortable to have the conversation with me either. So it just didn't really work out like that. After that, I slowly kind of phased out the purging, and that was when I went into restrictive eating. Severe restrictive. And that's kind of how things stayed like that for, on and off, so then I went through waves of, doing that for like quite a long time, and then I wouldn't do it, and then I would do it, and then I wouldn't do it, and it was kind of like, so there was no consistent decline.
I was just going to say, did you find, were there certain periods or influences that you can think to mind that made you get better or made you get worse? Were there relationships that were really good, so that got you on the up, or relationships bad and down? Is there any sort of, or like linking to jobs or other things that you can think of, or was it just random, do you think?
Not particularly, but whenever I did gain a bit of weight because I wasn't restricting, I definitely didn't have a very good opinion of myself. I would get very down about the way I looked, and felt like I wasn't happy with the way I looked,
and that you didn't feel comfortable in yourself, and people would, because I know you've shared this with me, people would judge you differently, and you wouldn't look as good in your photos and your videos. Like, all this is affected. And yeah, it's a lot to sort of manage and cope with yourself, like whether anyone else tells you you look absolutely unbelievable and it doesn't even matter the way you look, because it's your heart and soul that matters. You have sort of mentioned about sort of struggling with body dysmorphia as well, so whether you actually did look a certain way, or the similar to what you always have looked, that you would see yourself in a different light.
Well, with the body dysmorphia, it is, that is something I think has been there for like pretty much since my eating disorder started as well, because even when I was going through, even now when I look back at the times when I wasn't restrictive, and I was had that little bit of extra weight, my opinion of myself is very, very critical, very critical. It's like I have one rule for me, and then another rule for everyone else. Everyone else looks beautiful no matter what. Everyone else, in my opinion, is just perfect. They can put on weight, they can lose weight, they can do what they want.
I know.
They always look the same to me.
Yeah.
But I don't. My opinion of myself is different. It's like, well, no, if I put on weight, I look like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And there is a bunch of other rules that I give myself, and it's really hard to. One thing I've always struggled with, and I still really struggle with the body dysmorphia now. It's any kind of changes in appearance. Any changes in appearance, I start to freak out, and I really start to panic about it. So it could be like anything, like my teeth looking a bit different,
looking more pale, or different things like that. Like, it would really affect you, and it would be a bit like it would sort of take over your whole life and brain space, because there's a change. So I guess it's like a change then that you would be like a trigger.
It's a change. Yeah, so it's like, say, if I was to gain weight, if my teeth were to change a little bit, like if my skin is to start breaking out, I get very, very obsessive about it. But I mean, I know the core truth of why that happens is because deep down I've built up a narrative to myself that if I don't look a certain way,
no one will love me, and I would be,
and I'll be left on my own, blah blah blah, the typical
how horrendous. I mean, yourself that if your friend came to you with the exact thing that you're saying to them, everything you would say to them, yet why can you not give yourself that advice? It's like, you would always say, like, talk to yourself as though you would talk to your best friend, or you as a child, what you need to hear. Yet it actually takes you to be so in tune with yourself, and actually check yourself before you wreck yourself, and start talking to yourself in a way that is loving, rather than being your own worst enemy, because where does that get you? Misery.
And that's the, but it's just not in our default to do that.
No,
It's
Emily,
one of
it
those
takes
things
a
that's
lot
so
of work.
hard.
It's daily work, and it's actually minute by minute work, because there's so many triggers from the outside, from other people around you, from like the magazines, from social media, from everything. There's so much to actually deal with. Comments from people that you don't want comments from. Like, that guy has flipping caused so much damage, and you're like, oh,
Well, I wouldn't blame him for everything, but I would say
no, like, but it's things like that. It's
the
definitely a
comment
trigger.
definitely added to the
He
problem.
didn't help matters. But yeah, so
So,
in sort of summary, would you have any sort of words of advice or wisdom that you could offer to anyone who might be struggling with anything that we've talked about, in particular sort of body issues or mental health struggles or problems with eating or their weight, stuff like this? Would you have sort of anything that's really helped you or that you would like to say to others?
I think for me, like, the main thing is really talking about it to someone that you can trust, or your family or loved ones.
Yeah.
I didn't really properly acknowledge that I had an issue until I really started to talk out about it. Years and years went by. My mum, my sister, nobody knew I had an issue. Nobody ever knew, because I wasn't significantly so underweight that I looked really.
That's the thing. People don't really notice there's any problem because you don't look like you're dying, basically. And there is still a stereotype that needs broken for people to get help.
And actually, a lot of people that are suffering with eating disorders, they look healthy.
Yeah.
Whatever healthy looks like.
Can we scream it from the rooftops? Eating disorders do not have a look.
Yeah, exactly. and that's the thing, because I was never super dangerously underweight. I was underweight, but I wasn't hospitalized. But because I wasn't hospitalized, you're not seen to have
not seen as serious.
The issue is mental. It's not actually physical. The symptoms are physical.
It's never about how you look. It's about fixing your brain.
Yeah. And so I would say I found it really freeing to talk to my family eventually and admit that I had a problem. And that was when I really started to seek more help. I've been seeking help for a long time, but I was always trying to find something to fix it in the wrong way. Like, I was just going from, I would try and fix my eating disorder by going on a different type of diet, because this is the diet where I'll be able to eat more but still look great. Well, that never works. So I found
it takes the trial and error as well to figure that out. You're like, oh, this new diet, this magazine's promising it's going to bring me everything I need to help myself. It's like, nah, definitely not. Diets definitely aren't the answer ever, but okay.
Just say, really just doing your best to try and get whatever help you can, whatever that looks like, whether it's ringing helplines, talking to your friends or families. I actually went to the Eating Disorders Association in Belfast. I went to the charity and had a one-to-one session with the girl that runs the charity. They were really helpful, because you can go to group meetups with other people that are suffering with the same thing as you.
Did you find them helpful? Did you?
I went a couple of times. I had a one-to-one session with a lovely woman that runs the charity, and then I also went to one of the meetups. And it's just good to be around people that
be surrounded with people who are going through a similar thing, and you're not like strange.
I just think as well to accept any help that you're offered, no matter what
because it might work for you even though it hasn't worked for someone else. Like, this might actually be the thing that will really help you. That's really good advice.
I got referred for CBT, even though I feel like I still could have done better with talking therapy. There were still things I took from the CBT that were helpful. You've just got to do what you can with what you can. And just also give yourself small goals and acknowledge that it may not be something that you fully ever can get rid of or cure as such, but it's something that you can live with and you can get better at coping with. And that is a lot less pressure to put on yourself as well, because you're not putting big expectations to achieve too much too soon. You're just taking wee bite-sized steps. So
that's a nice way to think about it, and to hold on to the hope that life without eating disorders is actually possible, and that you know, people have been able to fully recover from their eating disorder. And so that's, you know, a great sort of goal to be thinking, oh, you know, I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and be freed, but every day, if I do these kind of things to help myself, one day, you know, slowly and gradually, you're getting towards a life of freedom, which is ultimately what we all deserve, right? We never have to be damaged. I think that's a really nice way to end it, Emily. Do you?
Yeah, that's lovely.